We're going to get started with our program today. We have an opportunity to basically come back and tell you what we've been doing. Those of you who've participated with us in the past on Bronzeville International, which has been our annual summit, 2 years ago we decided that we really wanted to start focusing more on what was going on in both these growth industries of heritage tourism, information technology, as well as just transportation as a whole. And so we made the move out of the incubator over at the Bronzeville Visitor Center to here at the Tech Park, at the University Technology Park, and it has been wonderful. So what we did with our first Bronzeville Bootstrappers was to say we were going to come back in a year, tell you a little bit about our projects and some of the other programs and entrepreneurs and enterprises that we've also tried to support and help accelerate, and hope that you will do as well. I mean, I think that the networking today was really good, and we know that's what it's all about. So what I'd like to share with you to kick things off is just an update on what we refer to as our model, T3. Which stands for Tourism, Technology, and Transportation. So you'll hear that repeated several times this evening from different groups. And so this first report out is basically what the Urban Innovation Center has been doing in its own planning studios to try to advance both these, all of these three areas. So the first presenter is actually someone that we've been working with through the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning, CMAP. So we are continuing to work towards getting the destination, a designation of an African American heritage area, which would be called the Black Metropolis National Heritage Area. There's been an aggressive plan, and I'd like to invite Kendra Smith to give you an update. Thank you.
So good evening. Thank you, Paula, for having us again. My name is Kendra Smith, and I work with the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning. We are the state planning agency for the 7 counties in northeastern Illinois. And for the past about a year or so, we've been working with Paula and the Bronzeville community on the Black Metropolis National Heritage Area as part of our local technical assistance program, which is a federally funded program from HUD, the Department of Transportation, and EPA that allows us to go into local communities and complete plans that reference back to Go to 2040, which is the regional comprehensive plan that creates a 30-year vision for the Chicago region and continuing to make it a sustainable place where people want to move and continue to live. And how do we locally implement various projects to make that happen? So we can go to the next slide. So this project is a partnership with the Black Metropolis National Heritage Commission, the City of Chicago, Department of Historic Preservation, CMAP, and a lot of other really great community groups here in Bronzeville. And so we are probably at this moment smack dab in the middle of this timeline in drafting. What we are excited about is a feasibility study that will be part of the application that will go to the National Park Service as part of the National Historic Area application. And I'm sure most of you know, but a National Historic Area is a federally designated district, in this case, which highlights the Black Metropolis, the Black Belt, and the Great Migration in the Chicagoland area. So you can go ahead and go to the next one. So we are working in a pretty large boundary from 18th to 71st Street, from the lake to canal, and really working to highlight, one, the historic significance that was and continues to be. We're looking at community partnerships, community programming, and really how do we capitalize on all of the great things that are happening here in the greater Bronzeville area through a historic designation. And that's able to allow the community to leverage different types of funding, different types of programming, all through the federal government. So at this point, we are completing our draft feasibility, which will be done the end of July and go to our project advisory committee, which has been a great group of about 12 folks scattered throughout various organizations and industries in the Bronzeville community. And once that draft continues to make its way around the community through various events and festivals, we would love to come out and talk to different organizations. If you can catch him, Harold is passing around a 2-pager. If not, I will leave some on the back table as well. Our contact information is there. If you go to the next one, we also have a project website where all of the draft mapping and draft reports will live once we have them as well. But we are open to invitations to come out to speak to community groups and talk about what this project is and how different groups can be involved with that. So I will leave it at that, and thank you so much.
Thanks. Thanks. Good evening. Good evening. My name's Dave Chandler, and I work with an organization called the Center for Neighborhood Technology. We're a not-for-profit organization that's been working in Chicago and other cities for about 36 years. And we do projects where there's kind of a double whammy of environmental benefit and community development benefit at the same time. And with the folks, with Paula and the folks in the Bronzeville Partnership, we've been looking at some ideas for economic development in the south suburbs that build on the T3 concept that you've become familiar with, looking at tourism, transportation, and technology. And we're thinking about ways that we can capitalize on the great assets in this part of the city of Chicago in order to advance that agenda, that T3 agenda. And the way that we're looking at this is through a couple of related concepts. Ah, I see, okay. No? Okay, good. And the two concepts are transit-oriented development and cargo-oriented development. How many people are familiar with the term transit-oriented development? Okay, most people here. So here we're talking about, the development of housing and businesses that are retail and service businesses in places where you have very good access to public transit. You're creating an environment of walkable spaces with amenities and places that people want to go to that are all served by transit, so that people who live in a transit-oriented development area can take care of their daily business, maybe go to work, do many things without necessarily using a car, which is a great thing for the environment as well as for the local economy. And let's see. Okay, good. And another concept that may not be so familiar to people is the idea of cargo-oriented development. How many people have heard of that idea? Several. Okay, great. Okay. What we mean by cargo-oriented development is the development of industrial businesses and light manufacturing and distribution businesses in places where there's access to multiple modes of freight transportation. And the advantages of that kind of development are in some ways comparable to transit-oriented development, because what we're doing when we put businesses close to modes of intermodal freight transfer is we shorten or eliminate truck trips. And we all know how many trucks there are in Chicago. And we're blessed in a way because we're the hub of freight transportation in the country. Huge part of our economy is related to that. And we can't seem to advance our okay. If we think about jobs that are related to this kind of activity, this kind of gives you just a little bit of perspective. There are a lot of jobs that are associated with railroads and with trucking, but those jobs are dwarfed by the number of jobs that are involved in warehousing, distribution, the arrangement of freight, manufacturing businesses that wouldn't be here without close ties to freight transportation. The big bar in this graph shows how many jobs there are in Chicago, in industrial parks that are adjacent to intermodal freight terminals in Chicago. So this is a big driver for our regional economy. It's kind of like, you're familiar with the idea of how grocery stores are kind of like an anchor for retail businesses. Well, intermodal terminals are kind of like an anchor like that for distribution and industrial businesses. So if we can continue to put more businesses close to that kind of infrastructure, we're helping our economy a great deal. Let's see. And so this just kind of shows an example of the kind of situation that in an area that we've been doing a lot of work with in the southern suburbs of Chicago, in the Southland area, where you have a community that has a lot of industrial space involved. They have 5 active metro lines and commuter rail lines, about 34 stations. Another line is proposed, and you know, by looking at the sort of combination of where there are transit-oriented development opportunities along these mini stations, and where there's opportunity for cargo-oriented development around intermodal terminals and vacant land, both these things can work together, because if you can create jobs close to where people live in transit-oriented development neighborhoods, that's a good thing. You know, people don't have such long commutes. It helps, it provides money into the local economy, and you can move your economy forward. We can do, yeah, good. That's just, you know, sort of how we think about this connected. We call it the green time zone, because we're thinking about transit and intermodal freight movement and manufacturing and preserving the environment all at the same time. So it's good to think about all these things together as interrelated concepts, because they are. And you know, we have a system of analysis that we've sort of perfected at C&T. We call an optimizer. It sort of looks at the various factors that are involved in saying, where would be a great transit-oriented development site? What station area has these certain qualities that you could do different types of transit-oriented development there? And a similar set of variables that we look at for sites for cargo-oriented development. And you know, it's sort of based on kind of a statistical model of combining these factors and measuring them, and being able to think what kinds of businesses, what kinds of activity could be viable at different types of TOD or COD locations. And we come back to the near south side of Chicago, to Bronzeville in the near south side. And if we think we've got some assets in the south suburbs, we've got assets in spades in the south side. How many folks are familiar with the CREATE program? So, okay, a few. Well, the CREATE program is a program that's been going on for a number of years now, 4 or 5 years, and it's going to go on further. It's an effort to spend, at this point, the estimate is over $5 billion to improve the throughput of freight movement through our city. You know, in the Chicago area, 1/3 of all of the freight movements in the country by rail occur in this region. Think about that. Just one metropolitan area, and we got 1/3 of all the freight movements in the country. And that's a good thing, because that creates a lot of jobs, as we saw before. A lot of our jobs in the region are related to that. And the CREATE program is investing money to improve the connections between the terminals and the rail lines, so that this will continue to be a big hub for our region, or our region will continue to be a great hub for the country. And if you're familiar with what's on the map here, these are the 5 corridors of CREATE, where they're connecting intermodal terminals. And guess what? You know, here we are in the middle of the south side of Chicago, where a number of these existing terminals are located. Whoop. Can we go back a couple more? Okay. And if we look at a map of the Heritage Corridor, which Kendra was just telling us about, of course, we have the green line, we have the red line, we have buses, we are the transit connection between the University of Chicago and the South Side and the Loop. We have a lot of TOD opportunities here that haven't been fully capitalized. And we also have COD opportunities. These big red marks here, here and here, these are intermodal freight terminals. So we have two of them right here within the corridor, and there's another one over in Inglewood, just west of us. And these terminals, they've been invested in. They want to expand. They want to create more jobs. And in Olive Harvey College, maybe some of you are familiar with this, there's a new training center to train people to work in logistics-related businesses. It's a $35 million state program. They're building a new state center where they're simulating a distribution center in Olive Harvey down on 103rd Street. So there's, being thousands of folks being trained in Chicago to take these kinds of jobs. So that's another thing that we're looking at. So these are opportunities that we want to study more carefully. So at this point, what we're doing is planning how we can identify the best COD and TOD opportunities. And it's a subject that's of great concern on the South Side, because as these, for example, as terminals expand, people are wondering, well, will we lose homes? What, will these be problematic businesses to be in our community? And it's going to be a struggle, I think, to see that there are benefits that come to this, from this, because of, there's economic opportunity here, but we have to make sure that there's an effort to get people into the jobs that are available, to get people trained for the jobs, and to help our contractors get the jobs from the construction that will come from this. And another important aspect of this is the environmental quality. I mean, it's really important for the region's environment that cargo-oriented development, transit-oriented development occur. But sometimes an intermodal freight terminal per se can be a really nasty thing to live beside, because there's lots of trucks moving in and out of there. So another aspect of doing this kind of development is that we have to utilize new green technology for rail and for cargo handling equipment so that we don't create environmental problems and health problems along with this. Fortunately, there is some really neat some really neat technology that is coming online, and it's being produced here, being manufactured here in Chicago. There's an organization, a company called National Railroad Equipment Corporation that makes these genset locomotives that produce only a small fraction of the pollutants that are involved in typical rail movements. It's an important development. Another really innovative company is the MyJack company. They make cranes that move these big containers, that go from train to truck and truck to train. Those cranes are made in the Chicago area, down in the south suburbs. And they are converting from diesel fuel to electricity. So now they're makers of electric cranes so that they aren't creating pollution here. And having a system that we can move trucks and move the freight through the terminals in a much faster, more streamlined way so that pollution is minimized. So one of the things that we'll be looking at is how, as we capitalize on these facilities being here, how can we make them cleaner? How can we make sure that the latest green technology is utilized in these facilities? So, those are the things that we want to talk about, that we're going to look at. We're again, looking at ways of funding more extensive research into how we can really examine and capitalize on these assets. And it's one of the things that we look forward to working with the Bronzeville Partnership as we go forward in the next year. So thanks.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Nice to see you all here. So I'm Mike Newman. This is Monica Chada, and we're part of a collaborative group that has been asked to help Paula and her urban innovations team to consider some possibilities about. Why don't you go to the next one? About how to do some temporary, kind of spontaneous processes of generating some excitement and interest in the State Street and kind of related Bronzeville areas as a way to sort of start to make some excitement that allows people to see the great, exciting things that are already happening in Bronzeville in kind of a new way. And so Paula had come up with some concepts, and we came in to help kind of reimagine those. And part of the way that we do that is through a collaborative process, sitting around a table doing, why don't you go ahead to the next one, going to look at models and how people think about space and what kinds of possibilities are there. And the concept of using cargo containers as a way to generate sort of space, make something happen, provide a place for where interesting processes can happen. I'm going to step out here because it's easier to see what's going on. Provide a place where there's some excitement that can transpire. So through kind of thinking about it from a collaborative sense, what all the different people involved are interested in, and then generating a bunch of ideas, and then using those ideas to send then very sketchy, simple ideas, but in order to get to find funders and find other collaborative partners. And so we started doing this. Why don't you go ahead? Can you?
Can I go backwards?
Yeah, there you go. And so in that process, we started identifying some places of opportunity, and I'll hand this over.
So, of course, we're talking about sort of the excitement, the things that can happen and go on in these areas, but I'll take a half step back. We're 3 architects working on this project, and what we've been doing is working with Paula on sort of some quick design implementation strategies to sort of activate the area. So what can you do to create the excitement, cause people to come, and then shipping cargo containers has become kind of the vehicle for that. So what we've done through the community processes, through all of these discussions, is started to look at, okay, you've got the State Street corridor, right? There's a lot of opportunities on the State Street corridor. There's a lot of vacant opportunities. There's a lot of potential nodes or moments, whether it's retail initiatives, whether it's housing initiatives, where you might be able to kind of bring people together. So we actually went through and actually prioritized and worked through what are the opportunities on these different sites. So some might be more health-based initiatives, some might be more residential or green infrastructure-based initiatives, some might be more retail and commerce opportunities. So this might be beginning to bring in young entrepreneurs. You've got a new bike system, you've got something going on, and you need small-scale space to temporarily sell and showcase your produce. And you want to tie that in with events in the area, movies, activities. So we've been trying to take all of this information and package it, and we'll show you a couple of sort of renderings and ideas of what that could look like, and we'll take a second to sort of talk about kind of where we're at with city and ideas and sort of what might become sort of a phase 1 for the project.
So the next couple images are very fast images just to kind of get across how some of these kinds of spaces could work. We'll have some next presentation will sort of feed into some of this discussion as well. And so this is like what could happen on a tight site. What would be useful in where there's a lot of traffic, but it's a very tight area. How could you generate more interest instead of people just getting onto the CTA? Could they actually have more information about other things that are going on in Bronzeville? Would you go ahead? Next one. Visitor center, small areas that could have events, but it's all low cost, low infrastructure as a way that it's sort of generating the idea is to generate the next level of investment. Go ahead. Some of the bigger sites could start to have more excitement, more area, could have where you could have movies at night or parties or different events that start to generate excitement. Go And then obviously there's a bunch of possibilities with coordinating with CTA and other public transportation as a way to sort of say, all right, if there's going to be a stream of people moving through here, how can we get them to see it in a new way and find understand the possibilities, the opportunities that are in the neighborhood that already exist, and sort of highlight those by creating these moments that get people to sort of imagine it in a new spot. Next. Right. Obviously, this is all very fast, sort of speculative. The idea is to sort of generate how would you get people interested in the idea, and kind of using art and events so these become a backdrop for these larger series of processes. So, next one. And then there's a particular site that we're particularly interested in, which is right by the Garfield stop. And it seems like there's sort of an opportunity there. We've had some preliminary discussions with the city of Chicago, but there's a lot that has to happen in order to make something like this actually pull off. But Paula has managed to generate a lot of interesting opportunity, and we were sort of in those discussions. This might be an interesting spot for a little sort of test version of how this might go forward. I think I'm in the way. Yep. And so this is one of the organizations we've been working with. We've been talking to a couple different people, but this is with Boxman Studio, who retrofit these elements and kind of can do these sort of small scale, kind of informational but cafe, kind of generate some happiness and excitement in the location, get people to imagine stopping and staying for a little bit, with the intention that hopefully they would stop and stay in other places around there once they kind of get used to that. And then we're sort of just kind of coming to the okay, what do we need to really do? What's kind of happening next?
And that's what we're sort of really excited about right now, because I think what's been going on, as you've seen with a lot of the other projects that go on around here, is that there's the initial idea, there's the seed idea, there's what can happen, and there's a ton of community partners that are interested in seeing something like a visitor information center, that are interested in taking advantage of things like the red line closure or other things that are bringing more traffic in and through Bronzeville. So Paula's been putting together funding proposals, has been putting together outlines of kind of what are all the steps, right? What's the financing? What are the steps that we need to actually activate this project? So I think that's kind of where we want to sort of leave this, is that we're at the next steps, if it ever, and that we're really looking at, there's excitement from the city, there's excitement from the community partners. People want to see a place that you can come and learn more about the area. And now, how do we activate that? So with any luck, when we come back, we'll be able to show you the project that's actually in place and on site.
All right, thanks very much.
So you see, we have been busy, and you guys are wonderful to be here on Friday in this lovely summer weather, and be interested in some of these ideas and strategies, because that's really what it takes. And one of the things that we have been finding out is that often a seed of an idea starts somewhere, and we see it get picked up somewhere else, and that's exactly what we want to have happen. So some of the things that we're talking about where we have maybe only gotten to a proof of concept, or it has ignited something else that's similar, we think that's exactly what our role should be. So you've been hearing the name Paula and Paula Robinson quite a bit, but I just want to share with you that the Bronzeville Community Development Partnership has operated for a number of years, something called the Bronzeville Community Development Planning and Design Studio. And when we came over here to the new tech park, we decided to call ourselves the Urban Innovation Center. So that's who we are, and there are 8 partners that make up the partnership. I serve as the managing partner. And the other partners, and some of them are here with us this evening, the Abraham Lincoln Center, the Black Metropolis Convention and Tourism Council. Harold, do you want to stand? The Bronzeville Merchants Association, the Bronzeville Alliance, who has a event tomorrow for the discussion of the Bronzeville Retail Initiative, and the details on that I don't have, but I know that it's on. Do you have that, Leroy? 11 to 1 tomorrow at room 43. Thank you, on East 43rd Street at Berkeley. The others, the Center for Neighborhood Technology, you just heard from David Chandler. The Illinois Institute of Technology, you just heard from Leroy Kennedy. Rehab Construction Systems, Inc., and the Southside Community Federal Credit Union. So those are the 8 advisory partners, and we're excited that not only did we engage in the process and hear about, you heard about the projects that we've been working on, but we're a year-old startup as an incubator, as Leroy shared. We've actually been around and doing some of this stuff for the last 20 years. But I think the concept of what we were hearing from everyone at our annual summits was, let's be more innovative, let's start creating new jobs, and let's start focusing on growth industries. So we feel that, in particular, the African American community in Bronzeville is really a pioneering community in terms of innovation, and that we needed to continue to keep a lead in that. So that's what we've been doing, and I'd like to move into our next section, which I think is really exciting, because what we also did was say, not only are we going to try to find some traction, but we want to try to see who we can work with and begin to help and elevate as well. And so what we have next are a group of presenters who were basically what we were referring to as kind of our bronze ventures for 2012, 2013. And it was a great season, if you will. The first group that's up really focuses on our overall commitment to sustainable Bronzeville. And I think that the selection for the Bronzeville urban development was a great, broad, encompassing. I love it when people take on big, broad ideas. And so I'd like to introduce you to Danielle and Charles Sutton, and have them give you their wrap up, their report out on where they're at in their project.
I wake up every morning and say, I'm too old for this. We started a long time ago. I showed my then friend, now husband, this remarkable building that I thought it was remarkable. He took one look at the Commonwealth Edison building that's been vacated since 1949 and said, you are out of your fracking mind. And then he looked at the embankment that was behind it and said, what do you want to do with that embankment? So we thought, well, okay, we'll do energy. So we bugged the heck out of Leroy Kennedy, and he got us into the Tech Advantage program, and we looked at the numbers, and we weren't going to be able to produce enough energy to make a cooperative energy company that would really help Bronzeville. And since I love to cook and he loves to eat, we next thought about food and the fact that we're in a quasi-food desert. You can find a McDonald's, a Burger King, and some fried chicken, but you can't find a decent head of lettuce unless you go to 12th Street. So we thought about urban ag.
Or drive quite a distance around Bronzeville, because there is good food available.
You got to find it.
Excellent food, but you have to drive and drive and drive and drive.
And we're into sustainable and walkable. So we came up with the idea that we were going to learn how to do urban agriculture. He has a farming background. I can't farm anything. I can cook it. He can grow it. I can fix it. So we decided to look at urban agriculture as a way to do STEM education, because our school system is failing African American and minority students by the carloads. We're not learning the sciences, the technology, engineering, and math that we need to succeed. So we thought STEM and food sounds like a pretty darn good combination. So if you'll be kind enough to move us forward, this is what we kind of looked at. The old embankment, if you're not familiar with it, we do have some pictures later on. It used to be the Stockyard line, and it ran from 41st Street in Lake Park over to the Stockyards. And at one time, it became part of the L transit system called the Kenwood line. And for most of us who grew up in Bronzeville, it's got to be one of the ugliest doggone things. It's just been standing there cracking, deteriorating. The city didn't want to tear it down. It was going to cost more than $13 million. And so we started looking at how can we get a hold of this and actually do something productive with it. So what we decided, this is a overview of that line from Google Earth. You can see it's approximately 2 miles long, and it ranges from 12 to 14 feet in height.
And 40 feet wide.
And
40 feet wide.
right, so the city, Tony Preckwinkle had someone approach her when she was alderman and say, you know, I want to do housing up there, and she told him to take a long walk off a short pier. But we all know how Tony can be abrupt. She kind of liked our ideas, though. We went to talk to her, and she said, go get control of the land and come back and see me, so we did that. Next. You can just pass that. It's another picture of the embankment. This was the original land use map that is coming into fruition because of working with iPro. So we started talking to other people in the community like Paul and Harold Lucas and other people who said, these are some of the things that we would like to see along this. This corridor has been totally neglected in all of the planning that has been done in the city of Chicago. It's like it didn't exist. But it's operated as a barrier between the northern end of Bronzeville and the southern side of Bronzeville, and that's something we wanted to stop. We want to integrate it as part of the community and as a useful part of the community. So these are some of the ideas we're going to talk about next. You can pass by that one. We already talked about that. Starting at Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Drive, there's this wonderful mural, and through the efforts of Harold Lucas and Paula Robinson and some other people, Dr. Sitta Weber is going to be working with a group of kids and young adults this summer, renewing that mural on the embankment. Next. This is what we want to do with it. We happened to meet the owners of the old theater next door, and so we sat down and talked to them and said, look, what if we could do a bridge from your restaurant that you're planning to the embankment and then stick a train car up there as a bar and a place to hang out and watch the fireworks in the summer. I don't usually talk as much as
And also a major tourist attraction, given that 2016 is coming, and that's a celebration point for the great migration of African Americans from the south to the north. And so one other thing about this particular theme here is that because the embankment is minimum 12 feet high, it is a tremendous canvas for telling the story of Bronzeville in many different voices, from the young people who have their pants hanging down over you know what, to seniors who have been around for a very long time and seen all kinds of things come and go.
So this is just another shot of that,
Here.
of this, what we've envisioned along with other community members as to how to utilize this embankment to make it another tourist attraction. And it's right there on King Drive. It's right down the street from Chicken and Waffles. That's right. And one of the things that we talked to the Mickelsons who owned that building about was do not compete with Chicken and Waffles. We want a totally different kind of restaurant so people will come back to the neighborhood. They've had breakfast, they'll come back for jazz and blues and dinner. And Grand Terrace, exactly. So we're trying to bring all these people together and say, let's not compete with each other, let's complement the businesses that we already have in Bronzeville. The next section we're calling the Alpha site, and this is the one that my husband said I was crazy. It has to do with the Commonwealth Edison building, which as a community, we are going to make them give us that darn building. We're going to fight for that. They've done it on the north side. By God, they can do it on the south side.
After they went to court.
After, yeah, if we have to, we'll go to court.
It will not be easy.
Bloomingdale Trail is a park that's going to be more like the High Line. This, the community members in Bronzeville that we discussed this with and that we met with, they didn't want a park because it goes by too many of their private residences, like Leanna Flowers. People would be looking directly in her bedroom window. And people were very uncomfortable about that. So we talked to them and said, well, what would you like? Well, somebody said we need green space. We have 43% vacant lots in Bronzeville. We don't need green space. We need productive green space. So that's what we're talking about doing. So this is the Alpha site, which starts on Vincennes. And what we're projecting is this Tuesday, with the help of students from the iPro, we will be opening the station on Vincennes that has been closed since 1950. Somebody said, why are you doing that? Well, it's the only way to get to the top without ladders. And we've been crawling up and down on ladders, which, you know, is going to get kind of tired after a while. So we're going to go into the station with the help of the iPro students and 30 some odd young people from Center for New Horizons who will be working with us. They're going to resurface the station, paint it in the original colors. How many people knew that the original CTA colors were blue and white? You knew that? Gee, you must be a buff. I had no idea. So they're going to do the original blue and white, and we're going to refurbish the station enough to be able to get in and out. What you see on top are greenhouses or hoop houses where we will be producing produce, vegetables, fruits, and fish. We're going to do aquaponics. Fish is one of the best sources of protein, right? You can talk for a while.
60% of the high-quality protein that's consumed in the world is fish. 75% of the fishing stocks or more are overfished, meaning that we are catching fish faster than they can replace themselves. And in the process of the particular technology, we're also killing the juvenile fish and the smaller creatures that are at the bottom of the food chain. No bottom of the food chain, no fish, and all the other stuff that goes along with it.
This is my building.
Yes.
It's been standing there since 1949, the year I was born, and I'm not ashamed to tell my age.
And there's a reason it's been standing there too, because nobody else wanted to deal with it.
Yes. So we've been, thanks to someone who also is from IIT, who happens to be next door neighbors with the vice president of Commonwealth Edison's real estate division, we finally got them to talk about at least what we're going to do with this building, and we're going to pursue this. It currently is on the historical watch list, so they're not allowed to tear it down. And they would rather do nothing with it than to clean it up. And so EPA has been working with us, and they're ready to put a few points of pressure on ComEd to give them the building and help them clean it up.
You make an outstanding visitor center and an opportunity to have a kitchen where we can have gourmet cooks. People come in and take the product of the Urban Agriculture Project and present it to the public, which is a way of introducing people to healthy eating in a non-threatening environment. It's like Taste of Chicago. Oh, it's only 25 cents or it's free. All right, wrap it up.
Okay, let's move right, but that's just, one thing, go back up one time. We met the people that make this new kind of wind energy machine that is actually capable of generating wind energy in an urban environment, which is completely different. These are not the big turbines. And they've offered to donate one to the site for research purposes, but it kind of looks like that thing that's up there. So if you're wondering what that goofy looking structure is, that is a wind energy thing that's generating energy for the greenhouses. Okay, we're gonna go fast now. Ellis, dedicated to Paula and to Harold Lucas. We're calling this the migration section. You can go on. We want to incorporate the migration story along this entire side of this embankment in murals, and then of course also produce food and energy. That's just another picture of the same thing. I went crazy with SketchUp. Okay, Cottage Grove, the next one. This I'm dedicating to Buckminster Fuller. How many people know who Bucky Fuller is? Yeah, I'm a Bucky nut. And so the next picture is, I'm determined to figure out how we can grow fruit-producing plants and trees, internal environments that we can control. So what we're proposing is trying to get geothermal put in to keep the plants, the trees warm enough to be able to grow fruits, and if I have my way, truffles in Chicago. So that's what this is all about. And that's just another shot of the Bucky Domes. And then Lake Park, Paula mentioned wanting a doggy park, so we put a doggy park in, and this is a great place to grow mushrooms. This has an opening at both ends. There's a station. It's over 2 blocks long. We can do a huge mushroom cave where people can come, and we're calling it the Fungiform Farm because it'd be a great place for kids to learn about how fungi propagate and grow and so on and so forth. And that's about it. That's what we've been up to for 13 years. We're not that crazy after all. Yeah, that would be awfully noisy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bernard Turner from Highlights of Chicago Press, and I actually was trying to figure out what I was going to do when I retired, and I went to the Chicago History Museum and volunteered, and they taught me tons of things about Chicago, so much so that I decided I was going to write a book about Chicago, and I chose Bronzeville, the neighborhood that I grew up in, to write about for my first book. And since then, I've written several other books about Chicago neighborhoods, including The Windy City, Chicago Neighborhoods with Flavor Getting Out of the Loop, and some children's books which have cultural ties to Chicago. You can go to the next slide. Some cultural ties to Chicago, especially TJ and the Mysterious Stranger, which tells you a little bit about a character called Bud Billiken, which people don't know the story behind Bud Billiken. But anyway, other than that, I've been developing tours, and over the last couple of years, I've had a really good partnership with Arnold Jackson, who was here earlier, and wrote the introduction to Click Around Chicago. So when you go to his site, you will see my writing there talking about Chicago neighborhoods. And one of the things that I'm trying to do is develop more tours. So I do Bronzeville tours, walking tours, bus tours. I like to work with student groups, especially. I gave a walking tour to the DuSable Leadership Academy High School, which is in DuSable High School. And many of those kids had never been out of their neighborhood. And they were astounded to see some of the things in the neighborhood. So I am trying to develop more relationships, to get more tours, and to partner with other groups so that we can bring more tourism to Bronzeville. So that's it for me. Thanks.
How's everyone doing? My name is Albert. I'm the founder, chairman of BreakingVoices.com. First, I want to thank Paula for inviting me, I guess, for the second time around a little while later. And, you know, before I start off about what we do and where our industry is going with news globally, when you look at Bronzeville 100 years ago through the Great Migration, this was to become the place where we made our stance, we made our prosperity. And 100 years later, we're still fighting for that fight. And in my own opinion, the growth industry of the future is based around technology. It's something that at our VC firm that we run, where we work with 33 other tech companies, that we've gone out and really led them to the next steps, that we say it is about content instead of color. And in the internet age, that is the supreme situation that we have, which is you can build any company and it can be anywhere in the world and you can have an audience in the billions if you can get to that audience and build something scalable. So my attempt, and this is my 7th tech company I've built, It's called Breaking Voices, the evolution of breaking news. And this concept is based around that smartphones, mobile phones have already reached a penetration of about 87% globally. And we're talking all 7 continents. And with that, what if we were able to distribute from person to many individuals on smartphones anywhere in the world breaking news? And actually, I'm going to ask my son to grab me something. Can you grab my camera? Thank you. So when you look at the penetration of smartphones, there's 7 billion people in the world, and 5.9 billion of those have mobile phones. These mobile phones are either, thank you. These phones are either mobile phones or feature phones. And we're looking at, by 2011, 488.5 million smartphones. We're looking at by 2014, that number being a little bit over 850 million. And these are devices that can handle any form of media that you can distribute to them. And so when we look at this global opportunity, the question then becomes, how do you distribute news through to these people? And so when we started our company 5 years ago, I said I needed to really understand the issue and the problem, and that was bypassing all the systems at play. And now that we have things like Facebook, Twitter, Google+, now you no longer need to go buy a printed newspaper anymore. So Breaking Voices is a real-time global news network that works with independent journalists anywhere in the world, and by downloading our app onto a mobile phone, that can be a smartphone, that can be any device, they can then utilize the camera on the front of the device to distribute that real-time signal through our servers that we have patents on. And by accessing that, they're able to then shoot that content through Facebook, Twitter, and when a person triggers it, they're able to then turn around and view the content on their mobile phone. One of the disruptions that's happening across the board is newspapers are dying. And it's mainly because millennials don't buy newspapers. We don't want to pay for content. We figured out a way to monetize that content based on the location of the news story and based on the location of the person. And tying those two together for small to mid-sized businesses that cannot afford RCN, Comcast, and we can distribute directly to anyone in this anyone in this room. And so as a real-time news discovery engine, we aggregate moment-to-moment based news that is syndicated directly from the physical location to any mobile device. And so when you look at this global opportunity, we want every day to be a Super Bowl as a company. And we want to build that company right here in Bronzeville. So when you look at the second slide, thank you. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, go for it. There we go. So when you look at just where the market is going and the opportunity that is there, we said to ourselves, okay, all these devices are here, now let's build it and let's distribute it through to them. So where we are now is that we've been looking at this problem, and we've said that overall, the bad news for other major players is that cutbacks are going to continue, consumers are going to continue to leave buying newspapers, and millennials are going to still keep coming online. So when I look at the 11-year-olds and my 7-year-old in this room, I'm not building a technology. I'm not building a technology for older people, I'm building technology for them. Because every time I look at my son, I see the way that he utilizes the tablet, the smartphone as his means of getting entertainment or news. The second part is no one cares about the industry's financial issues that are happening at newspapers and broadcasters. I myself see it as a great opportunity. It is something that we call in business school generational displacement. It's just happening to those that have come before. Now it's time for a new entity to come about. And so also the disruption in advertising is the next big thing. And if you go for 1, 2, you're going backwards. Yep, there we go. The disruption in advertisements, When we started off with this problem, I didn't say, let's just build a product. I said, let's figure out how to monetize first and then build the product. And so after 5 years of being an incorporated company, we just became profitable over 3 months ago. And now we're growing. And this is just a great opportunity for us, and especially to have one person that's built it to a level where now we have 117 journalists just in Chicago, and we have 1,000 independent journalists. Thank you. 1,000 independent journalists throughout the world that are reporting news. So when you look at the good things that are happening, which is the next slide, as this diagram shows, viewership for late time or late news, evening news, and morning news are going down. It's really bad for the broadcasters, but it's great for us because that means that they're going online. And so with that, we also have that there's demand is growing, not shrinking. It's kind of the opposite of what CNN and everyone else is telling people. For us, it is actually that it's increased 7% since 2012, and it's only going up as more people are getting phones. The second part is that some of the outlets are having success with subscriptions. I believe that it's going to work for some of them to sustain themselves longer, but the truth of the matter is free content is free content. And if you can distribute free content to a person, that's the most important part. And the third is sources are going direct. So I was speaking with someone earlier, and the bigger thing is I work with all of the journalism schools in the city, and the young people only want to go work for the big companies because they like the stability of a paycheck. Now, when you can figure out a way to actually pay them, and we call it journalism without a salary cap, and you show them that you can do it, they have become really our own word of mouth advertising for us to tell every one of their friends, and all they have to do is sign up for our site. And so with that, we also have another situation that is occurring. So we know by 2016 there will be 2.1 billion phones. Most of those phones will not be in America. They will be in India, China, Africa, emerging markets. Our application works in all those places currently. And so that's really what we're gearing up for, is to build a global company like a news corporation that owns Fox or Ted Turner Broadcasting right here, but have customers, which are consumers of our news, and our journalists being anywhere in any country. And one great thing that is occurring is that tablets, smartphones, and desktops are currently only owned by together as all three by only 5% of the population. And as that becomes a higher percentage around the world, you'll find that more people are looking for their news on those devices 24/7. So when you wake up, you grab your smartphone. When you're sitting at your desktop at work, you're gonna go to your desktop. When you get up and you go to the water cooler, you grab your smartphone or your tablet. And then when you get home from 6 to 10 o'clock, then you get on your tablet and you watch your Netflix, and then you switch over. So with our HTML5 app, it is already optimized for that. And so when you look at the next slide, the part that gets me excited is that Google, Facebook have been able to create and control about 55% of the global advertising marketplace. And also Facebook has been able to control about 12%. Altogether, this is a little bit over $140 billion opportunity. And why this is so important is because what we found is only 49% of all people go online for social networking, but every day, every human being that has a smartphone that has internet access, 83% of them go online looking for one news item. And the big opportunity is micro-local. Where we are right now, this is an event that will take about 2 weeks to get shown. With our technology, we can broadcast this as it happens right now, and you guys can become the distribution for it. And we don't have to worry about CNN or what is the now defunct company? Oh, the Trib, selling off and, making their money the way they do. Because how we make our money is off of small businesses in the neighborhood. not from global advertising companies that, make the decisions, but the small business and where that phone is, and that is where the relevance is. And so with this, what we found, the next thing is that local is the space. And with that, weather, local restaurants and businesses, general local news, local sports scores, updates, local traffic and transportation, local coupons, news alerts, and local news and info are the main things that people are looking for. And at the current amount right now, that's about 43% of people are looking for more local news, and they cannot find it because they're selling off the newspapers and people are going online. And another thing that is occurring is that in America, it's changing. So when you look at the workforce, it's always consistently not represented the population of America when it comes to the newsrooms. And so when you look at this top chart, minorities are down at the bottom, and then you see at the top the general standard of what makes up a newsroom. That is going down. And I'm hoping with every new journalist that we get on our platform, we are now making it where it's fair. There's that old saying, when the rules are present to everyone and it's now being shown to the world, now you can play ball. And that's what the internet gives all of us. And then the other part of it is dealing with the demographic data. So when you look across the pretty much the internet right now and just dealing with media and readership, you see the numbers are going down for everybody, regardless. And it's mainly because you don't have time to pick up a newspaper. And frankly, why would you spend it when you can get it for free? So what I'm going to do in a second is actually show you guys a quick live demo of the site. But the last slide that is here is that for our journalists, we have created a news wire that allows them to work directly from their tablet. And then what we've created is a technology that replaces the tangible monetization of what we consider to be the news box. When you wake up in the morning, you have to walk past, or better yet, when they shut down the red line, and now there is no place to go and pick up a newspaper. When you go to your stop, are you going to get a chance to go past a red box or go past one of the boxes? No. And so with that, what we found was, but what you will always have on you will be your smartphone. And when you probably look around this room right now, every phone can handle SMS or text message and has a browser and also has a smartphone like Apple or like Android. So we distribute our news content over SMS, search, social media, email, and word of mouth. And this is how we transport it from person to person. And so with this, we also have a B2C platform for news discovery, which is all based on zip code. So when you download our app, based on what zip code that you're in, it will then pull from our journalists all the relevant news that is related to where your smartphone is. So it becomes mobile news as it happens in real time. And so I'm not sure how much more time I have, but if you get a chance, you should check out breakingvoices.com. It will download the app directly into your mobile phone, and then from there, you will be able to pull from all of our independent journalists that are spread not just in Chicago, but also in 7 other cities, and we'll be in 100 cities by January 1st of 2014, hopefully with 10,000 journalists employed with our company. And with time, what we're hoping is I have this belief that the reason that we were able to gain our civil rights in this country is because once upon a time there were 4 little girls that did not make it, and when that message of seeing those little girls was spread around the world by the BBC and other news outlets, it made the world tell America that this was not fair. But what we're now starting to see, even with our own government, is that we've come to a point where we need all people to step up and police their neighborhoods and be a part of the news generating, source that is there. And so at Breaking Voices, if you scroll down to the bottom, you see exactly where a news story is in real time. And then if you click on this was actually, if you go to the second one, the news story pops up in your window. And you read your news story on your mobile phone. If you scroll down, you can also chat with other people based on the zip code of where you are right now that are reading the same story. And we also pinpoint exactly where the story is in real time. And one last part that we have is if you click on my name or my face, which is over to the left, go up, right there. You got it. It then drives you into our social network where then you can find other journalists. And if you click here, not that one, but if you go back, if you click on News Now CEO, nope, that's not me. I'm this guy. Yep, there we go. These are basically the profiles like a Twitter for all of your news, and you just follow your journalists. And so the last one I want to show you guys is if you click here, it may take a second. Actually, wonder if it's the internet. What will show up, and you may actually want to go back to the front page just to show. There we go. This now becomes your real-time newspaper in your mobile phone. And so if you click on the news, nope, not there, here. It then loads, just click on it. We monetize, and then you get news content fed directly in your mobile phone. So thank you, and if there's any journalists out there anywhere in Chicago, breakingvoices@gmail.com, we are hiring, and thank you.
I need your business card.
Thanks.
Hey, you guys. I know it's late, so I'll try and keep this really brief. So my name is Brock Orbecklin, and my partner Brian Tillman is sitting right there. We work for a technical project management firm called Kymanox, and we represent their sustainability arm. The specific project here is kind of the third leg of the triangle. It's the transportation. So we're going to tell you about the Cycle Center, what is probably the greenest cycle center in the world, at least in concept right now. Biking is also a climate change mitigation and adaptation tool along the lines of the Chicago Climate Action Plan and the Chicago 2015 Bike Plan. There's a big obesity problem in the city. About 1.2 million Chicagoans live very sedentary lifestyles, contributing to a whole range of health problems and health costs for everyone. And biking is a way to strengthen community. It increases property values, and it's a way to improve the local economy because people shop more local, people's activities become more local, and that's what we're trying to create a community that's more local. So that's kind of the macro level thing, what's going on. How about what's going on in terms of people who are biking? So biking in terms of the benefits, it's definitely better health and fitness. It's less stress and happier. If you've ever been stuck in rush hour traffic, you know what I mean. You don't want to be doing that. It's financial savings, both on the healthcare side and on the transportation side. Biking is about max, $500 to $1,000 a year in total transportation costs. Compare that with taking the L, $1,000 to $1,500, or owning a car up to, $10,000, $20,000 a year. It's a very enjoyable commute. It's an easy way to get exercise even on a busy schedule. So we all have days where we can't get out of the office, we can't do anything. If you're on your bike, if you're commuting to work, you're gonna get some exercise even on your busiest day. And lastly, you get to know your city. Most of us who drive cars or take public transit, we don't know anything that goes on around us. Local news sources are great to help you with that. Another kind of less technological way is simply get out and see your city. So the initial Cycle Center concept, this is kind of a very poor design that I put together in PowerPoint, but you can generally see is It's focused on the current model that's set up at the McDonald Cycle Center in Millennium Park, which has been incredibly popular and well received, but it's hugely expensive and really unrepeatable. Taking it down to kind of distilling it to the most basic concept, it's providing secure storage, showers, and walkers in a convenient and quick manner. So it's a way to increase bike commuting for the mainstream audience. Not somebody like me who bike commutes everywhere and would do so regardless. I suspect most of the people in this room who probably don't bike commute, but may have some interest in it, and it's a way to kind of improve the convenience and the speed at which you do that and make it a feasible option for you. So the idea in terms of reducing cost is to retrofit existing commercial spaces to substantially reduce that cost and make it a financially viable setup. And then the original concept was based on paid membership, in which people who access it would provide a monthly or a yearly membership. And so the concept is that there's bike parking here. These are actual secure storage locations. And then you have showers and walkers. So it's a very kind of convenient, compact space, very much focused around helping bikers commute. So what's the progress that we've made in the year? So we've been working with the Urban Innovation Center as part of the State Street Innovation Pop-Up Zone, kind of trying to find a way to fit this in within the existing kind of progress that's being made. Definitely the mayor's announcement of the 50-plus block protected bike lane along State Street has been a real kind of boon in terms of, hey, this would be a great kind of accoutrement and addition to allow the city to get tremendous value out of and a huge investment that they're already making. They're spending $91 million on bike lanes, and yet there's this side of it, the infrastructure side, that's beyond the road that they're not even touching, that's incredibly necessary to get people actually out on their bikes. What Brian and I did was we analyzed the bike commuting market, and we really uncovered this big gap between this infrastructure side that people want to bike, that organizations want people to bike, but yet there's not the infrastructure to support people actually biking. So if I asked you guys tomorrow to bike to work, you know, let's say you had a bike and you had everything else, if you get to work all sweaty, you know, you're not going to be a happy camper. You're not going to do that. You have stuff to carry. You're not going to want to leave your bike outside. There's a whole bunch of issues that are around the infrastructure that even if you could get to work safely, which you more or less can now with all the protected bike lanes, there's still issues. So we've been working with the design team that presented earlier. Thank you guys so much. As well as Boxman to build this concept around utilizing shipping containers, used shipping containers, and you can see the concept. So this is a side view. So it's a single shipping container in which you'd have on the outside, you have walkers, you have a pump, you have a fix-it-yourself station, and solar panels on the roof. And the inside, this is looking from the top down, you more or less just focused on secure storage. So it'd be like key card access to get in. So something very compact. So distilling down this kind of larger complex down to the most kind of value added aspect of it, which is a very compact, secure storage bike facility. So it's what we call a cycle center in a box, where the box is a reused shipping container box. It's the secure storage, it's the lockers, it's the bike pump and fix-it station. It's off the grid, it's got solar panels which power everything. It's extremely mobile to set up. If you wanted one right outside here, it wouldn't be a problem. And then if you wanted to move it, it's not a building, it's not set down. It can be easily moved. You know, you want to find one here and then move it there, very simple. The current cost of the setup is about $33,000 for the first one, and if there's a second one purchased, it drops down to $24,500. And what this really does is it provides a proof of concept. So the idea that you need bike infrastructure to really support a more mainstream move to biking as a commuter option, this definitely proves that concept that people will actually use it, that they'll pay for it. It's an eye-catching innovation. If you have one of these outside, people are going to stop. People are going to wonder what it is. It's a great opportunity, and it's a good sustainability calling card. So a lot of organizations, especially universities, they really want an example project to show people, hey, what are you guys doing in sustainability? Well, let me tell you about this awesome project we have right outside. In fact, I'll walk you through it. So something we did in terms of concept validation. So yes, it's a cool concept, great. do people actually want it? So we did a concept validation with IIT for 3 days in which kind of walked around campus and talked to bikers and tried to get them to take an online survey in which they'd kind of give us their feedback on the process. The results were from 11 online respondents. They said they biked about 3.8 days on average. The level of interest in the concept was over 4 out of 5, so really high. Would the cycle center increase your biking was a 3, so higher than 3 out of 5, which is probably actually surprising given how much these bikers already biked. These are current bikers. The willingness to pay, they said they'd pay about $5 a month. And the comments suggested in the open-ended comments that they wanted more of them. They didn't just want one, they wanted several around campus. So what's next? So IIT is currently reviewing the proposal we put to them in terms of actually establishing a cycle center, the Boxman edition that I'm calling it, on campus. And Brian and myself are looking to kind of manage this process as well as all these services around the actual cycle center, including something like consulting services to provide an impact analysis both on the environmental and on the healthcare side of what you would see in terms of benefits from utilizing this program amongst employees or students or staff at a school. And so if you're interested in kind of exploring how to do this, we're really just at the final stage. Everything is ready to go. We just really need funding and a funder or somebody to advertise on it or something. So we're looking for that, and we're kind of ready to go. So we're hoping to be this kind of first progress and kind of up and running as part of the Urban Innovation Center. So thank you guys, and if you have any questions, please see us after.
So how about that first season of Urban Innovators? We have been very surprised that with very little announcement about this first team, that we've had inquiries from others who've said, how do we become the next season? So this is part of our celebration. I know that the hour is drawing near, but I do want to at least introduce to you this new team for 2013-2012. And again, we are still focusing on the overall vision of sustainable Bronzeville. The selection remained the same in terms of focusing on those projects that were also supportive of the T3 model, the tourism, technology, and transportation. And our first presenter basically has, we've seen some broad ideas about sustainability. I think that we continue to go from macro to micro, and this is a very interesting concept called the Green Closet with Royce Cunningham.
Let's hear it for Paula. Let's hear it for Paula. I'm Royce Cunningham, and I'm going to try and get through this in about 10 minutes. Actually, I've got 3.
I know it's kind of weird.
Sorry, I'll get it, okay.
Here we go.
So we actually have 3 projects to pitch, and we're going to get it done within 10 minutes. So I'll skip the opening joke, okay? I represent three entities. One is our parent company, Architectural Services Group, Green Energy in Motion, our green sustainability focused subsidiary, and Build Bold, which is our community-based sustainability action organization. Build Bold is an ethic acronym stating that we are all LEED accredited professionals. We're going to show 3 projects tonight, but we have maybe a dozen projects in our hopper, earth-friendly, sustainability-based projects in various stages of development. But the 3 that we're showing you tonight are just to get your attention. Those are the garden closet, the smart green pole, and the backpack. We'll do each in about 2 minutes apiece. The green closet, that's one of our napkin sketches, actually done in a restaurant with on a napkin. But this is an interior food closet. It's an interior food garden designed to occupy the space of a typical 24 by 30-inch residential food closet. Some of the examples of high-yield crops that could be grown in this space are salad herbs, leaf veggies, microgreens, roots, sprouts, tomatoes, and fruits. We estimate that the approximate cost will be around, well, less than $1,000. We look at our market as the food desert families, school applications, of course, military, and neighborhood stores. We think that there will be jobs created by this product in to manufacture, assemble, service, sales, etc. Next page, Jim. Okay. Our next product is the Smart Green Light Pole. This product graduates the energy wasting bulb on a pole to a neighborhood-friendly, high-tech, energy-efficient wireless service center. This product reduces city greenhouse gas emissions, provides neighborhood broadband internet, and provides residents and businesses a new way to adapt to climate change and become a model for low-carbon economic growth and neighborhood redevelopment. It is basically one of our existing city light poles that will be taken down, will be refurbished, repainted, refinished, and will be provided with a mounting surface for a number of different items. We had this product in New York for Hurricane Sandy. Those folks would have been able to charge their phones, heat their homes. Even though the power went down, we have, at the top of the pole, we have wind turbines, actually wind belt turbines. We have low voltage light fixtures that are more efficient than LEDs. We have a growing system inside. We have a electric vehicle charger, and a bunch of more devices that could come and go with that. The price would run about $3,000 for the basic model. Our market could be, we could run with this in Harvey, Illinois. We could run with this in Detroit City. We could run with this in exchange. We could add this to those IDOT poles that are sitting out there. We call them dumb poles. We will now be adding power to the grid as opposed to the opposite. The other product, and our last product, is what's called the bike pack. Some years back, I used to be a pretty avid biker, and the problem was that I didn't have anywhere to, a second please. We needed something to carry our gear, wallets, books, etc. Okay, and of course the bicycle market here in Chicago is coming back in a huge way. In a huge way. So this is the product that we developed. I'm going to ask one of my models to help me hold this up, okay? And this is simply a bag that's made from a parachute nylon that fits over the horizontal strut of a typical bike, rides here. You can load it down. It's actually strapped in with Velcro. Gives you about 3 or 4 inches of knee space. Book, a laptop, wallet. Gets you a job when the price is right. But also, Yeah, but also it comes off the bike, and it makes an excellent. It makes an excellent marketing promotional item. If it says Chicago Bears, if it says bike ride for Chicago, bike to drive, or urban innovators, or IIT for that matter. Excuse me? Bike the butt, exactly. Okay. I've left a few seconds for questions. If you guys have questions for me, anybody? Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. We'll go with her first, okay?
So that pole is outside the building, is there a certain place it needs to be near the property in order to be functional? Or is it just out like the regular?
Chicago has about 250,000 light poles, not counting IDOT. This would replace one of our trained folks, after 30 days of training, would take that down, take it to a nearby factory, repurposed factory, and refit the pole to contain these devices.
So to take their pole, is there, they're just gonna let us use the light pole?
Well, if we talk, no, they're not. But Harvey might, Detroit might, okay? Because now they're actually, Detroit doesn't have any, because they can't afford to pay the bill anymore. So now if we show them now that they can now send power back to the grid 24/7 because of wind and solar, they may be interested. Chicago may be interested when we get our first natural disaster, and we'll need to have power available off the grid. Okay. Yes, sir.
Hey, with that application, would that work in the garden?
In a garden? Yeah, it certainly would, yes, okay. Excuse me? Oh, this question was, would it work?
Would it work in a garden?
But it's primarily designed to replace an existing street light. Is it all? Thank you, everyone. Thank you. How are you? Okay. You gotta hold this together. Okay.
Got a lot to hold, huh? Good evening, everyone. I'm Roxanne Burnett, and this is my wonderful husband of 31 years, Don Burnett. And we're here to represent the Green Light Movement and our Young Entrepreneurs Program. Ready whenever you are. You have the... Aha. Would you like it on a drive? Would you like me to give you a drive? I have it on a drive, just in case.
Yeah, the drive, that'd be good.
Hold this. Give me just 1 minute.
Okay, a little technical problem right here, right now. We're gonna get the PowerPoint up on the drive so you can view what we're doing here. Just a little history on the Green Light Movement while she gets that together. Green Light Movement was founded in 2009 by our son. He's a prominent Chicago rapper named J9. Due to some violent episodes in his life affecting his friends and family members, he decided that he wanted to give back to the community and stop the violence, and he wanted to do something real about it. So he started out with the Green Light Movement by simply going to the homeless shelters and giving out clothing, serving food to people on Christmas Eve, and he began to get his group around him to help him do these things.
You all right?
Okay.
And that's how Green Light Movement was started, because someone very close to him who should have never been in trouble ended up in a bad way. Well, we initially started Green Light Movement. You can press the button. Okay. We are a 501c3. Press the button. Come on with me. Okay, there we go. All right, and as he's already told you, it was founded by our son. We have an office now in Bronzeville. We have been blessed to be incubated by Mr. Harold Lucas,
and the Bronzeville Visitor Center. Now, the mission of Greenlight Movement is to offer youth ages 11 to 24 nonviolent alternatives using hip hop and community service. Now, in addition to the hot dog wrapper, which we will talk about, and Go Green, which is Bronzeville pedicabs, in addition to those components, we offer a wide array of nonviolence programming, including the Gift of Warmth, which is our first endeavor. Every Christmas Eve, we go out and we provide hats, scarves, gloves, socks, because I'm a registered nurse and I know how important it is to take care of your feet, coats and blankets, and food to the homeless. We also have See the Light, which is our nonviolence rallies, hip hop blocks, where it's a mobile nonviolence rally, and where we incorporate children in that area into what we're doing. Youth Helping Youth, Real Music Group, Community First, and Leaders of Tomorrow. Next. Okay, so what Young Entrepreneurs does is we expose youth to basic entrepreneurial training. We give them all the building blocks that they need, a curriculum including math, accounting, customer service, because you cannot do this when you have somebody in your face. You have to know how to communicate. We also provide marketing, financial literacy, banking, English literacy, grammar, public speaking, writing, and critical thinking. Is your breast? Okay. Now, with the hot dog wrapper, Donald is our program director for that. We also have specific training, which includes food service training, sanitation licensing, equipment, safety, and maintenance. With Go Green, the pedicab, specific training in partnership with the Bronzeville Community Development Partnership and the Bronzeville Visitor Center. Thank you, Paula and Harold Lucas. It includes docent training. Imagine just think about how powerful it would be when you're on a tour and a young person that you don't expect to have any inkling of where we've come from can tell you the history of where they are. Part of the problem our youth have, they have no idea about the future because they have no idea what we've come through. We forget to teach them the struggle, so it doesn't mean anything to them. So now we're giving them that training, so now they have a viable way of making money, getting history, all the classes that they would fall asleep on, real life applications, math, how many 8-ounce bottles of ketchup will this gallon bottle fill before I need to get another one? Reading, literacy, not the IJUS, okay, instead of JUST, okay? They have to be able to read. We don't want you to cut off the words. We want you to know how to spell something. You have to be literate. Okay, all right. So now who? At-risk youth, for the hot dog wrapper and for Go Green Bronzeville pedicabs, you have to be 16 years old, the city states. So 16 to 24, they can work on the carts and they can do the pedicabs and the walking tours, where citywide, schools, churches, neighborhood organizations, festivals, and how? Through the formation of teams that build and train. Okay, it does take a village. That's, we all say that and we don't think about the impact, but there's a great impact when you take the time with someone else's child. Next. Okay, this is the Greenlight Movement's hot dog wrapper. You want to talk a little bit about it?
Sure. Okay. The hot dog wrapper is operated a lot like a restaurant. We do not serve, just because it's street food, we do not serve poor quality food. We serve high quality hot dogs, no pork, beef and turkey products. We have tacos, we have tamales, sundaes, tamale sundaes, we have nachos. We're adding other options to the cart as we go along. But all the quality of the food is restaurant quality. We make them understand the whole object of presentation of food. Just because it's a hot dog don't mean you just slap some mustard on it and walk away. We have them serve a Chicago-style hot dog, which means they have to understand what it is, how to prepare it, how to put it on the bun, design it so that it looks pretty to the eye of the purchaser. We also talk to them about the safety of the cart, how to operate it from the ground up, how to start up, how to end day, break down, keep it clean during the course of the workday. And by clean, I mean sanitized. They have to understand the sanitation for themselves. They have to understand how to deal with the money on the cart. They have to understand how to deal with customer service. The most important part is the customer service. You can't come out there with your pants off your butt. We don't allow that. We cannot come out there with a bad attitude. We don't allow that. We have a zero tolerance for anything that is below standard for a young person. And we consider that below standard because we consider our young people to be of a higher quality than what they even believe themselves to be. And we teach them that.
So now, along with that, we have the pedicabs. And we're very excited because Paula Robinson, whose name keeps being, don't shake your head, we wouldn't be able to do this without you, and we love you for it. We will be unveiling 5 pedicabs on July the 30th. Now, we started this last year with 1. We had to put our money where our mouths were, and we started with 1 hot dog cart. And we took all the proceeds, we didn't take a salary, because we wanted to put it back into the kids. Now we will have 4. They are here, they are being wrapped, and soon, within the next week or so, we expect to have 5 pedicabs to go with them. Okay, so yes, we're branding, and the kids are learning about something that you get in network marketing, multiple streams of income. You all have heard that? Now they need to understand that concept and how important it is. Okay, now I know how to start a business because in classroom time, the Burnett's have taught us how to get a FEIN number, how to register with the Secretary of State, how to apply for a business license in the city of Chicago, how to develop a business plan, all the things that you need to do to have a business. Then they turned around and threw something else in the game. I don't have to just focus on one thing at a time. I can have multiple streams of income. And instead of it being something out in the street that's destructive, and we all know what that is, we're making it something constructive. Nobody's gonna shoot you or put you in jail over a hot dog. Take that, at least they shouldn't. Okay, this is a really bad hot dog. Okay, and then you take what you've learned and you apply it to a different product. So we have some young ladies that are in culinary, they want to open up their own catering companies. Just switch the product. We have one that wants to start a 501c3 for tutoring. Just switch the product. But we've given them the knowledge, and that's what makes the difference. Next. So our outcomes are violence reduction through alternative activities. We provide essential financial assistance because they get paid while working this cart and getting this education. We promote teamwork. Next. We build self-esteem because now they can say, I did this. And that makes a difference. I was talking to a gentleman earlier about, and he'll be coming up, and I was saying how when something comes in our community, we get a sense of pride and we take ownership. And when we take ownership in something, it's a whole new day. Just like when you were talking about what you put together. Think about all the time and the dedication it took for you to do that. But as you did it as a young man, the pride in you, you may not even think about it, but it makes the difference in self-esteem. And then you pushing it forward and planting in other people, I applaud you for that. But we're trying to do the same thing. So move on. So now here's the vision. Where do you fit in the puzzle? We are building a team. So we ask you to stand with us, be a partner, recruit other partners and sponsors. You can find us at 411 East 35th Street, working very hard. Starting Monday, we will have 32 new people in our program. Pray for us. Okay, next. Thank you. So these are some of the ways that you can look at the vision and make an investment. And finally, young entrepreneurs build more than a business, they build a community. Because our kids, once they learn, they have to pay it forward or pay it backwards. So we have senior bingo brunches. We have things that they do for other youth. When we had that big snowstorm, we had youth out there shoveling for free. We have to become a community again. And this is the way we do it. Thank you.
Any questions? Anyone have any questions? Yes, sir.
But I like what the hot dog truck looked like. I like it.
You do? You like the truck? Oh, I appreciate that, young sir. Maybe one day we'll have you working on it. Any other questions?
No questions?
Okay. Well, thank you all for your patience. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dwayne Kiles, and I am a lawyer and an entrepreneur. I've been working here for a long time. What I'd like to say first is, Paul, you've gotten a lot of accolades today, and I think they are very well deserved. You've been doing this a long time, and you really are to be commended. I am very impressed and inspired by the work that I've seen. Yes, let's give her a hand for that. You know, the cameras from all the TV shows really should, news stations should be out here, because these are the kinds of things that are really going to make a difference in the community. And unfortunately, this is not what the news coverage would have us believe is going on in our lives so much. But this work is very important. I am here to introduce something called Bronzeville Etudes and Riffs, which is the first part of a three-phase project that is designed to bring attention to Bronzeville in an international market through, number one, what we're calling an immersive graphic novel. For those of you that don't know what a graphic novel is, don't feel bad, because the reason I know is because I got teenage kids. They are like comic books on steroids, very high-end comic book type things that usually are adaptations for movies. Once we get that done, we will translate that into a video game which will trace the evolution of the community in Bronzeville from the 1940s through current day. And once that is done, and it'll be a sleuthing kind of environment where people actually have to find things and discover things, and hopefully kids will be encouraged to learn about Bronzeville as a community. And the third phase of this is an actual museum quality exhibit that will be really high tech and really quite amazing. So that's all I have to say, because this little video you're going to see is going to say it all for me. Thank you very much.
I'm Don Jones of Alchemy Media Publishing, and we're launching our Kickstarter for our project Bronzeville Etudes and Riffs. We like to call it an immersive graphic novel. This project has been in development for the past 4 years, and we need your support to complete its production and to bring this exciting new form of storytelling to fruition. In Bronzeville Etudes and Riffs, our award-winning creative director, Philip Mallory Jones, offers the first of a 3-part project designed to tell the story of the South Side of Chicago around 1940 within interactive environments on your desktop, laptop, or tablet. This experience will allow the user to explore the arts, music, culture, and the rough underbelly of this burgeoning melting pot via a series of interactive, immersive vignettes.
I remember when we were all growing up, my sister Louise wanted to sing. I wanted to drive demo cars at the track. I was going to blow their minds, a black woman racing stock cars and make money and live good. And what happened? I didn't do nothing but wind up with a no-good man and a raft full of kids.
Chicago's South Side, Bronzeville, really emerged as a mecca for the arts and culture, political thought as well, as a consequence of one of the great underreported events of the 20th century, the 50-year migration of African Americans from southern fields to cities in the north and in the west. Without this great migration, untold lives that significantly shaped our nation may well have come and gone, unknown, unaccomplished, and unfulfilled. Bronzeville in Chicago, just as Harlem in New York and communities in other major cities across the country, served as a natural destination point for millions escaping from the harshest realities of Jim Crow. If not for Bronzeville, we don't know if that wonderful music that came up from the cotton fields to the cities and the recording studios there would have had the same chances to be heard and the opportunity to influence countless generations of musicians. Bronzeville Etudes and Riffs is a new form of storytelling, a new way to experience a story. It's immersive in that it uses 3D modeling, animation, and computer game technologies to create a virtual interactive place where the dramas unfold in a theater of the surround. So you say, well, I don't play video games. Why would I support Bronzeville Etudes and Riffs? Think about it this way. Bronzeville Etudes and Riffs is enjoyed for the same reasons that one enjoys a great work of fiction, or a thrilling theater performance, or a marvelous piece of music. It's enjoyed in the same way because, simply put, it's all of those things.
Everybody was Cinderella. Bet a penny on a number, win you $6. Dream about a fire, Dream Book gave 591. A funeral, 319. Got to hit it today. For God's sake, child, don't lose that dream book.
While Bronzeville Etudes and Riffs is not a video game per se, it provides a focal point around which we can rally as we seek to harness the enormous potential and direction of this entertainment and edutainment genre. Though Bronzeville Etudes and Riffs is not a history lesson, what it does do is use this powerful storytelling tool to bring out great lessons from history. Our ambition is to make a contribution to the state of an art form which engages so much of the time and attention of young people, and at the same time can be enriching and entertaining for adults who are interested in content and approach that go beyond standard gameplay. What I do know is that this project preserves a cultural and historical heritage that shaped so much of the 20th century. Below, you'll find various rewards that we'll gladly send your way as our thank you for supporting this project development. This includes, of course, the finished product in both a downloadable and HD version, wonderful fine art prints of scenes or characters, access to alpha and beta levels of development, webinars, and more. Also, you can have a major impact on our project's success by spreading the word of this effort with your friends and your networks. This is the project we've really been waiting for. We're extremely fortunate, actually it's a blessing, to have an artist like Phil as a creative director because he's able to bring such a spirit and sensitivity to the work. And so We'd appreciate you doing what you can to support us. This project is eminently worthy, and on behalf of Alchemy Media Publishing, thank you very much.
Encouraging people that care about this to please let their family, friends know and send it to folks. And if you can go there, if you go to Kickstarter.com and put in Bronzeville Etudes and Riffs, you'll see that same video. You can hear it and hear all that good music. Okay, thank you so much for your time.
I'm John Krause. I am the executive director of the Chicago Streetcar Renaissance. We're a nonprofit organization that's formed to advocate and plan for a network of modern streetcars throughout the city of Chicago. It's not really a transit project, though. It's actually a catalyst for repopulating and rebuilding the economy of the city. So it's not really about building a better transit system, it's about building a better neighborhood. But it is a better transit system. So the modern streetcar, it's not like the streetcars we had here in the city 80 years ago. You have rapid level boarding through multiple doors, and you board right from the sidewalk, so you don't have to climb stairs like with the L. It glides on rails instead of bumping and rattling over potholes like a bus. We're talking about long, high-capacity vehicles. Mixes well with people and with bikes because it follows a predictable path that's clearly marked by the rails in the street, so people feel comfortable around it. There's no pollution, runs on electricity, which means we can transition the transportation infrastructure from fossil fuels to clean, renewable energy that gets cheaper every year and never runs out. In the United States, we have the American streetcar on the left, and then we have the light rail vehicle. The streetcar in the US typically is a small vehicle that mixes in traffic with cars, so it operates very slowly at about the capacity of a bus. It's cuter, but it's more expensive than the bus. It's kind of like a deluxe electric bus. And then you have the light rail vehicle, which is like a train. It operates with separated, bridges and tunnels, very expensive infrastructure, fewer stops, comes in very fast from the suburbs as a commuter vehicle. So the operations are more efficient, but the infrastructure is much more expensive. In Europe, they just combine the best of both, which is to say you build simple streetcar infrastructure and then you operate it like a light rail vehicle, which means giving it a dedicated right-of-way so it doesn't get stuck in traffic, and giving it traffic signal priority at intersections. So this is a cost-effective way to expand the rapid transit system. This is real rapid transit. This has similar capacity to the L, but it's much, much less expensive. 1/10 the cost of building per mile of building the L. So, for example, for extending the Red Line 5 miles into the far south side of Chicago, you could build a 50-mile network of modern streetcars all over the near south side. It's cheaper to operate than the bus service that it replaces. The reason is that each vehicle can carry several times as many passengers. The drivers are about 75% of the operating costs of a transit system. When you give it a dedicated lane, they move much faster, which is appealing to the drivers, but it also means that if the vehicle can make its loop in half the time, you only need to have half as many drivers and half as many vehicles to provide the same service. So it's much cheaper to operate a transit system quickly than slowly. And in fact, a very expensive way to provide transit service is to hire lots of drivers to drive people around very slowly and a lot of small buses stuck in traffic with cars. This is an idea for the Cottage Grove streetcar. We see Motor Row, Cottage Grove, and 57th Street. And maybe going forward with 47th and 35th, Halsted. This is what the city of Chicago looked like for most of our history. Our whole city was developed around the streetcar and the pedestrian. In fact, by the 30s, we had over 1,000 miles of electric streetcars. Every one of those red lines is an electric streetcar right to the city limits. You could get anywhere in the city with one transfer. The biggest network of streetcars that's ever existed anywhere in the world. Okay, so the L operates in the median of a highway or a back alley or an abandoned freight rail corridor. The streetcar brings rapid transit where we really need it, right to the heart of the neighborhood, where the institutions, where the jazz clubs are, where the schools are, where the grocery stores will be. Does anybody know what this is? Yep, this is on the left we have the proposed alignment for the Red Line extension, and on the right we have Michigan Avenue South where people shop and work today. The question is, where do we want the rapid transit to be? So think of this as an alternative to the shopping mall. Instead of being out by the highway, it's right in the heart of the community. It's got thousands of apartments upstairs, and every day tens of thousands of commuters pass through on the way to and from work. So where would you rather own a business? This is in Portland. The streetcar is a proven catalyst for a transit-oriented development. In fact, they're building streetcar lines all over the United States, and almost none of them are being built as transit systems. They're being built as business and property development initiatives because the taxes that you get from the new property development is more than enough to pay for the streetcar line. So in Portland, they got $3.5 billion worth of new development within 2 blocks of their little streetcar line in just 10 years. The question is, should we redevelop Bronzeville around transit or around driving and parking? So when we plan for driving and parking, the space between the buildings is overtaken by cars. This is a CHA mixed income project. The backyards and the shared courtyards become alleys and garages and parking lots. So you see the green is backyards and the red is the public space devoted to parking. This is what it looks like from the front. Beautiful. The back is given over to alleys. Again, this is another great street, very impressive front. So what happened to the backyard? Here's an alternative to the alley and the garage and the parking lot. This is a defensible space courtyard. Right, so in the auto age, everything became functionally separated and car dependent, right? Abandoned public space to cars. The streetcar is a way of taking back public space. So Chicago and the South Side have a mixed use history in the sense that housing and shopping were in the same place along the streetcar line. This is Cottage Grove. The future is mixed use and transit oriented too, but we still have this 20th century legacy of requiring new housing to provide parking on site as part of zoning. And the cost of providing that parking is added onto the cost of the housing. So housing is made more expensive by the zoning that requires the development to provide the parking on the site instead of developing the land into something more profitable. That cost is added onto the housing whether you drive or not. So the question is, do we need all that parking if the buildings are going to be built right on a rapid transit line? And if the street on both sides is going to be lined with everything we need, if we're going to have commercial space for miles on the ground floor along the streetcar line. So my contention is that the easiest way to make housing more affordable is to eliminate the parking from transit-oriented developments in the streetcar corridor. Now in Chicago, the average car, according to the RTA, costs $12,000 a year more to own, insure, maintain, and fuel than taking transit. $12,000 a year for each car, and the average family, I think in Chicago, has 1.5 of them. Okay, so what if you have to drive? What if you live in a neighborhood that has 32 gas stations and 2 grocery stores? Now, the easiest way to make living more affordable, that is the combined cost of housing and transportation, is to make driving an option rather than a necessity. Now, the streetcar is going to provide 3 really great alternatives to driving: rapid transit, safe cycling. Remember, there's no room on our narrow streets for protected bikeways unless you deal with the cars, unless you provide a really appealing alternative to driving that people will use, and local shopping. So it's a way of trying to achieve prosperity without displacement. It's pretty easy to imagine the city, the South Side, developing into this beautiful neighborhood around the streetcar. Property values go up, and that everybody who lives there now and their children are displaced. The question is, how can we make the neighborhood great and still make it affordable? So this was the idea, is eliminating the cost of the parking from the housing and making car ownership unnecessary. It's a cost-effective way to expand rapid transit. It brings the transit where we need it most, puts it right in the heart of the neighborhood. It's a boost for local business and local jobs, catalysts for transit-oriented development, and it's a model for prosperity without displacement. That's all. Thank you.
So, John.
Harold Lucas.
I just got chills on this, all right? And I saw your map. Can we go back to your map? And I want to push the envelope. And I clearly heard a person speaking from a civic engagement point of view, not from a profit-based point of view. And I heard a nonprofit perspective to building infrastructure that isn't coming from the top down. And if we wait on the city of Chicago and our plutocratic mayor, we're going to get the top-down mortgage banker perspective of redevelopment, which is going to displace all of the low and moderate income people. So this, to me, is an infrastructure tactic to support cycling and transportation-oriented development so that it preserves local economies and builds local economies. We're pushing for, and we're not asking permission, for the Presidential Library to be built on a prime piece of land at 31st and the Lakefront. And if we could create a model train line that actually ran through Bronzeville and linked up to that site, I think we'd be well on the way to put enough pressure on the University of Chicago. Back office, I mean, Chicago State, that's a joke with Chicago State. It's a joke to put it in full, right? The best place to put it is where we've already spent money, cleared the land, blew the Olympics, right? Again, top-down perspective. How do we ignite this? And how do we buy it and bring it into the planning scenario for the Black Metropolis National Heritage Area as a transportation infrastructure piece? Where do our private sector partners come from? And how do we leverage the McCormick Place, Navy Pier deal on the tip money that they borrowed from Black Tips to build the DePaul Stadium? How do we partner Lincoln with that?
Okay, that was a lot of questions.
That's an open question to the
Okay. I will say that I think that people will come to the Obama Presidential Library on a streetcar. I think that people will get to the Obama Library on the streetcar. I think that he wants to, I don't know this, but I suspect that he would rather build more than an institution. He would rather build a neighborhood that has all of the components that we've talked about tonight in a neighborhood. And that the streetcar is a way of not only catalyzing those things and supporting them economically, but a way of linking them together in a really tangible way. This is how you will get to the University of Chicago, the DeSable Museum. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
You're going to have to repeat the question.
Yeah, the question is, have we started working with CNT, Center for Neighborhood Technology, yet? And the answer is sort of. We're talking about that now. I think we will be working with them. The next thing is to try to develop different funding models for various streetcar lines throughout the city, where, getting back to what Harold was saying, that there is a need to bring in private capital and political capital. The recipe is different from one part of the city to another, and we need to do all of them.
I want him to stay up here for just a moment, because I was just getting a couple of questions from the audience about how this next group of projects was selected and how we work with the partners on that. Specifically on this project, I think John was probably a little frustrated with me because we did seek the support and review from our partners, Center for Neighborhood Technology, before we really looked at this. Obviously, it has a number of political opportunities, and Harold is sharing some of the things that we're not going to talk about this evening, but what you do see that is announced is that we have a conference call scheduled in August. That's an invitational conference call to begin to share some more of the strategies around the presidential library. We think that it is going to take some bold planning. The field has gotten much more competitive, but we think that collaboration and having some exciting plans that solve broader problems like transportation along the South Lakefront are going to be the things that not only win that proposal, but help us with our broader integrated strategies. So this is one of those. So without stealing too much thunder from the folks that are working on the proposal for the presidential library, this South Lakefront transportation system is the way that we're approaching that. We're not just saying, yes, we want it, yes, it's a part of what would happen with the Black Metropolis National Heritage Area. Yes, it makes sense for a lot of reasons, but as we also talk about what are the community benefits for these kinds of major projects. And so we think a South Lakefront transportation plan, which is something that we've all been working on bits and pieces with different entities for a while, makes this sexy, ties into a number of needs, a lot of things that we're also working on, like the Millennium Reserve, a lot of the things that the president initiatives are. But I think that what we want to do is to be even more collaborative with some of the other players in Chicago's South Side and create that collaboration. So strategically, yes, this project could be a standalone, but you very strategically see that we're also talking about supporting a Cottage Grove line. It is by design, but we also want to step back and do what planners and good designers do and engage community. So that's a good example of how that happened. The other example in terms of selecting the Green Light Movement, this is a program that was already being incubated with the Black Metropolis Convention Tourism Council as part of their hospitality tourism incubator. It made sense for us to find a way to accelerate that. So if you look at the group of projects this year, you're seeing even more integration with what we think are our strengths, where we also see partnership support, and I think that is what can carry some of this forward. There's no question that we are beginning to focus more on both the cultural economics as well as digital economy. And the project that we just talked about in terms of the Kickstarter project, really looking at Bronzeville in 3D, in entertainment, in what we've talked about with just mobile education, it does all of those things. So it was also a natural pick, where we have many people who talked about bits and pieces of the same, but we haven't seen anything that's as comprehensive. When he talks about immersion into not only the archival materials, but the technology, the digital, all ages, this was just a really exciting format. So I think that it was a good choice. And I think that at the same time, while we have also talked about sustainability projects that have been very broad, like the embankment, where we're now talking about aquaponics, the opportunity to have someone understand that they could also create a green closet and basically create a fresh pantry of food in their kitchen was exciting to us too. So I think that this is a really good year for some exciting projects. The hour is late, so I'm not going to go over all the announcements, but I know that there's definitely the concern that we are focused on the upcoming March on Washington. The web address is there. There are going to be groups that are organizing to attend that, and we want to do whatever we can do to be a catalyst for that. We do have information about a couple of other upcoming conferences. The National Trust for Historic Preservation, a national conference, is in Indianapolis this year. It takes us full circle from where this group started 20 years ago with Restoring Bronzeville, going to that conference in Indianapolis. So we will be taking a delegation there as well. So if you have not friended us on Facebook for Obama Library Bronzeville, please do so that you can have the times for the upcoming webinar, and we hope that that level of community engagement will continue. So for those of you who have not attended a Chicago Idea Week or a TED Talks or those kinds of programs, they also get out very late like this in the evening. We've just had our own little mini version of that this evening. You are all to be congratulated for a late Friday night, so much thought and attention, and I'm just hoping that we can continue to do the co-mentoring that we've got outlined on the cover of our program, and keep just feeding off of each other's ideas and collaborations and keeping things going. So on behalf of
we have changed the South Lakefront region, has changed from an industrial region to an outdoor recreation region. Federal money is in the pipeline of the Millennium Reserve. You're looking at the South Lakefront development. Richard M. Daley is not over in Gary, Indiana for an accident. He's over there strategically because airport is going to Gary, Indiana. The South Coastal region of Chicago, the Audubon Society is here, the bird watchers are here, the new boat out at 31st Street, all right? So we have an opportunity to either be displaced by upscale development, be very proactive from the bottom up. And you all know that this administration is coming from the top down with very little regard for taxpayers, regardless of what class you're in, etc. So if we're not proactive in moving these issues right now, I think this is a great opportunity to lay that infrastructure, even if it's on a Google map, to position us and have the debate where in Chicago is the best place to put the presidential library. Let's bring the entire conversation to the table and open it up to the South Lakefront regional perspective.
Well, I hope you got that. That's going to be too much for me to repeat on mic. But I think that part of what I hope you're getting a feel for is that the Urban Innovation Center tries to focus on not only planning and design, but advocacy and networking and politics, and all of that is a part of it. So please stay close to us. Again, thank you so much for your time and extended attention. And on behalf of the Bronzeville Bootstrappers II, good night.
Thank you, Paula.
Thank you.